everyone, and it's Raiders Thrive, another week, so another video or episode of things that might help you with your mental health, getting through, managing, that sort of thing. And we've got Crystal here this week, and this week Mr. Assiamah's, caught up with his to-do list and he's busy. So how are you, Crystal?
I'm fantastic.
We
I'm juggling.
We missed you last week.
Oh, thank you. I was really busy last week too. I was literally in like back-to-back meetings, and I was on a phone call with a parent and I just couldn't get off the phone. So I missed last week's meeting. So I apologize. But I guess that's the world that we live in right now, right? Like we're juggling home and we're juggling work and just trying to find that balance. So I have my kids home as well, and I find myself constantly having to say, "Okay, guys, I'm in a meeting. You can't come in here. Okay, guys, you can't do this." And it's easier said than done. But this is the reality of what we're in right now, and it kind of is what it is, right? So we're just rolling with it.
And especially with our roles, right? We're non-academic support, so we are in the mental health field, and so a lot of people are needing that extra support. So Mr. A, Crystal, myself, we're all a little busier. Although we're pretty just as busy in regular school too.
But I think that, it's important to emphasize that because of the roles that we do play, there may be weeks that come up that, one of us isn't here. I'm sorry, I'm looking out my window because this is a distraction, and Cogeco's right out front my window, and there's a cable box out there. And yesterday I lost internet 2 or 3 times. So I'm hoping they're not here to fix the internet as we're getting this done. So
yes, well, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm dealing with some internet issues. So if we get booted out, we're just going to
this is, like I said, this is the reality, right? We have to be adaptable and interchangeable because we can't predict when these things are going to happen. This is just life. And so we need to just take it one step at a time. So if I get booted out, please feel free to join without me. And then, it is what it is. This is real life stuff. This isn't made up,
Yeah. And it's funny that we're talking about this because we're going to, obviously, we kind of repeat ourselves. We say the same things every week about how to manage your mental well-being, your physical and mental well-being, because they're so intertwined. And we do end up kind of repeating ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's this sort of thing. Things are unpredictable. I know that internet connections have been spotty in Oakville, with Cogeco and that. So some teachers weren't able to teach and they got booted out. And, as students, you're having a hard time logging in because of internet issues. And so mental health is, how do we deal with these unpredictables? How do we deal with the predictables, and how do we deal with the unpredictable stuff that happens? Because nothing's a guarantee. We love internet, we love our technology, but sometimes it doesn't work. Or there's going to be a storm brewing or something or whatever. It's going to boot us out. Or in some cases, a squirrel is going to chew a wire and then you don't have internet.
But that's just a classic example of there are things in this world that we can control and there's things in this world that we can't. And it's about how you adapt in those changes, right? So they will cause stress.
Okay, so since you talked about that, why don't you, because I know I've done videos for this in the spring when I did, the circle of, things you can control, things that are sort of within your control and things are not in your control. So what are some things we have in our control?
That's simple, right? It's how do you cope? How do you respond to things?
So your attitude, the perspective you take.
But I think one of the important things that a lot of people miss is just because our body doesn't have words, it has feelings and it has emotions, right? And so our body speaks to us every day. If you have an upset stomach or if your stomach's hurting, it could be maybe you're not feeling well, maybe you're hungry, maybe you're stressed, maybe you're nervous. If your body's tired, you need to sleep. So there's so many different things that our body does to speak to us, and it's important for us because this is our temple, right? It's important for us to listen to it and to respond to it, because if we don't respond to it, then that's going to negatively impact how you feel, how you respond to things, how how you respond to others. So like if we aren't good, we're not going to put out good things, right? So we have to
So
listen to that. So we have that control. If I'm hungry or if I'm dehydrated, if I'm running and I'm thirsty, I have the ability to go and get myself a drink, or to go and take a nap, or to take a Tylenol if my head is hurting, or to eat food, right? So those are things that are in our control.
so eating well,
A
eating
hundred
right,
percent. Yeah.
the good foods, sleeping, getting enough
Yes.
sleep. So if you're, gaming all night, that's not going to help you mentally. And
Yes.
because your body needs that sleep. And you may know this, you may have heard this before, but I'm going to reiterate it. Sleeping up actually helps our memory. We need that downtime. So whatever you learn during the day, you actually need your body to rest, because
Yes.
you could say it saves whatever information you have, it saves it into your hard drive of your brain, you
Yeah.
could say.
Yeah.
And we need that. So sleep and exercise. And if you watched the morning show this morning, Mrs. Kuzmar gave some great tips on how to get motivated into exercising. And when we think about exercising, often we think, oh my God, it's got to be a major workout, an hour long. No, just if you start implementing little things. So if there's you got stairs in your home, do your stairs 10 times up and down, or 20 times. And then if you want to increase that, fill your knapsack with all these books, and then do the staircase 10 times up and down.
Yeah.
So it could just be little things like that. Or at 11:30 when you're done, with your classes, do some stretches, or do something. Go for a walk outside, because you've been sitting for 3 hours, or you're in bed, whatever. But it would be it's a helpful transition from learning to now, okay, do something really different. Transition into the next part of your day, the next chapter of your day.
Yeah.
So it could
And
be
I
little
think
things.
too, it's important to remember that, like, exercising is so good for you. But exercising doesn't have to be about losing weight and it doesn't have to
No,
be
yeah,
about that. It
it's just
shouldn't
about
be
health.
about that, because it becomes very discouraging when, we set unrealistic goals. And I know she spoke this morning about setting SMART goals, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about, losing, X amount of pounds. It's about, just getting up, having that motivation, and just working out and releasing those good feel hormones, because it does make you feel good, right? So
And
just one thing at a time.
it makes you sleep better.
It
It
does.
You have more energy. I
Yeah.
know that when I exercise, I've been trying to exercise. So far, so good. Every morning, last week, Monday to Friday, and this week, Monday to Friday, I wake up, I do a bit of a routine, and I just find that I have more energy for the rest of my day.
Yeah.
And I'm not as sluggish, and I'm not as like, oh, I don't want to do that.
But imagine
I'm
like
ready to
that
tackle.
that in itself, it's like, okay, so you're waking up, you're starting your day, you're doing that, you're eating, you're doing your schoolwork, you're doing, whatever, and then what you do at the end of the day. But you're also going to sleep at a reasonable time. We're not up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We're going to bed at a reasonable time. We're giving our body enough time to
Yeah.
recharge and refuel for the next day. And I know we must sound like squeaky wheels, because us three have talked about this so many times in these videos,
Yeah.
where, we talk about eat, sleep, hydrate, repeat.
Exercise.
Like we
Yeah.
do these things, and we emphasize it and we reiterate it so frequently, but it's so incredible how, if we do take care of ourselves, because those are things that we have control of, there's so many benefits to it. And so we don't
Yeah.
say it because we're parenting, or we're trying to lecture. We don't do it because of that. It's
No.
just, if we were to implement some of these things into our lives, you would see huge differences in how you feel, and just
Yeah.
how you
We're
feel.
we say it because we're walking the talk with you guys.
Yeah.
Because this situation is impacting us as well. And we're doing things that experts have said work.
Yeah.
So I'm actually implementing some of the stuff that I've heard experts say or read the books or whatever. And it does make a difference. And I know it's really hard because as teenagers, your brain is under construction. And
Yeah.
so you get a second wind like around midnight, right? So the melatonin doesn't kick in at like 9 or 10 o'clock or 11 as it would for adults because of what your brain's going through. But still, you can implement some of these strategies with that in mind.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that we wanted to talk about is removing the stigma on, mental health and getting better. And I want to before I turn it to Crystal, I want to ground this in our faith. I know that some of you are on different paths of the faith journey, or some of you don't have or want anything to do with faith. But integral to the Christian faith is we believe every person is created in the image and likeness of God. Every person, whether you're LGBTQ plus, whether you're black, white, whether you're poor, rich, male, female, or you are non-binary, whatever you're human, you have a dignity that comes from God that no one can take away from you. The difference is in our society, there's governing policies and government and laws, and it tends to because of that, we feel like some people are more deserving or have more dignity than other humans. And that's what's countercultural to our faith is no, there is no distinction. So part of that is how to fight against the stigma is whatever we've been taught to believe about ourselves, dish it out the window. I grew up hearing, oh, you're good for nothing, or you don't know how to do this. And so I always felt like, okay, I don't really know how to do this. Well, the thing is I did. And then what I heard, I internalized and then I started believing that, okay, I'm not really worthy of being recognized or being a leader or whatever. And that's what was so helpful about school. My chaplain and other teachers saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, that my family didn't see in me. And so it was very important to spend time with them, and I got involved. And so that helped me break the stigma of what I was hearing about myself, and I could see a different version of me that was possible. And so that's why
Mhm.
we're here. So, from your background, Crystal, what are some ways to break the stigma?
Well, I think the stigma you speak of is more about like that emotional piece, where when I think about stigma, I think sure the emotional piece certainly ties into your mental health or your mental wellness, but I think when I think of stigma, I think of the stigma associated with mental illness, right? Not necessarily some of the things I guess maybe that we heard growing up. When I think of stigma, I think of, people who have mental illnesses. So people who have schizophrenia, people who have bipolar, people who have anxiety. And let me tell you, a lot of people are experiencing anxiety, and anxiety is
Yeah.
heightened to a whole new level now with, lockdowns and COVIDs and sicknesses and people passing. Like it's very anxiety ridden. Like it's just people are afraid. And people are experiencing more anxiety now than ever, and not realizing what it is. Like they're having all the feelings, the body is speaking to you, but they don't necessarily know what it is. And I think a lot of that has to do with, it's unfamiliar territory, and it's a lack of education on that piece, right? So I remember growing up, I started to experience anxiety when I was maybe 19 or 20 years old. And my body was speaking to me. I didn't know what it was saying, but it was speaking to me, and it was very loud. And I was having heart palpitations. I was having shortness of breath. I was having, when I get very nervous and I have a lot of anxiety, I start to yawn because I feel like I need to constantly take in a breath to fill my lungs, because I feel like my heart's pounding so fast and I just can't catch up with it. And so when I speak of that stigma, I feel like back in the day, people used to use the words crazy so loosely. And, you're crazy, or you need to go into a mental institution. That's what they
Yes.
called them, right?
Or I remember hearing, you're not right in the head.
Yeah.
That a lot. You're not right in the head.
And I think because we've heard those things for so long and for so many years, and really and truly, the reference was made to people who were in mental institutions. They had insane asylums back in the day where they would lock people up, and you know what I mean? And there was zero education around, or knowledge around, or there was education, but the information that they know now is so different than what they knew back then. And so now we have so much of a better understanding of what is anxiety, of what is depression, and all that information about what's happening in the brain. And so because we have so much more information, we can treat it. However, people are still stuck in their ways of making comments like, you're so crazy, you're nuts, you belong in you're a nut job, you know what I mean, all of these things.
Or
And
just get over it.
Yeah, and it's just such an unfair statement. However, I feel like because we've learned those things, we don't necessarily know the history behind it, right?
Yeah.
So I know when I worked in elementary schools, I would hear students in grade 5 and 6 be like, "You're nuts, you're crazy," and I'm like, "Do you know that that's kind of like a derogatory term, because you're calling somebody crazy, and the meaning behind it has to do with, how they treated people with mental illness back in the day." And so again, when I can just go on and on and on forever about this, but when you hear stigma, stigma is people thinking that they're crazy, people thinking that they're out of control, people who lack control of their bodies, and it's not a bad thing. It's your body is speaking to you, and it's telling you something's going on and we need to address it. And when I was having all those physiological feelings, I was like, I need to go speak to somebody about it. And that's when I realized that I have anxiety and I was having panic attacks. And they're very real. So I think it's important to remember, just because somebody has a mental illness doesn't mean that they're less or beneath anybody else. Everybody has mental health. 5 in 5 people have mental health, but 1 in 5 people have a mental illness. And so if I was to play on a play structure in a park and I was to fall like I did when I was 5 years old and break my arm, guess what? I'm going to go to the hospital and I'm going to get that treated. And it's the same thing with your mental health.
Yes.
If something's going on and you're not feeling right, you need to explore and see what that is. And you should never be ashamed of that.
Well, I two things. I love the comparison to physical health. We all have physical health. We all have a body, and we all need certain things to be physically healthy. Mental health is the same thing. The other thing is we're human, and so things are going to affect us emotionally. The most common experience that I use to explain this is grief. We experience the death of a loved one, the death of a pet, whatever, a loss of some kind, whether parents divorce, and now that's a loss of an idea of what family life will be like, or, we experience loss. And this pandemic, we are experiencing losses on multiple levels. So it's going to affect us. And it's uncomfortable. We don't like it. So hence the stigma, because the emotions, we can't control them. We can't control how our bodies are going to react. And for anyone who's experienced anxiety, it's not comfortable. Anyone who has experienced grief is unpredictable. When I lost my brother many, many years ago, I didn't know when the rug would be pulled out from underneath my feet. There would be some days that I was okay. And I'm like, okay, I didn't have a breakdown. The next day, I could start off well. And then all of a sudden, like that, without warning, the tears are coming and I really miss him and I can't go to class. So we are uncomfortable with the unpredictability of being human.
Yeah.
So,
But I
being
think
human,
too, one of the biggest issues that I find right now is we are afraid to talk about it. And we're afraid to talk about it because we're so afraid of judgment. We're so afraid of what other people are going to think. And we're too scared to go for help. We're too scared to ask. Some of us don't even know how to ask, right?
yeah.
And
And
sometimes, sorry.
I was going to add, one, we're scared to ask for help. But two, I think for some, we're scared that once we start talking, we're going to come undone. And how do we put ourselves back together?
Absolutely. But that's part of the process, right? So what happens is we have a feeling, and what we do is we suppress those feelings. So we're suppressing, and we just internalize. And so if I was to take a Pepsi bottle and shake it, what's going to happen when I open it after I shake it? We're going to blow, right? But the fact of the matter is you could suppress all you want, it's going to come out. You decide how it's going to come out, right? You also need to remember too that some people that you approach may not be the best of supports. They may be judgmental, but you should never give up on yourself, and you should never stop talking, right? I always say, like,
go ahead, finish.
I was just going to say, like, we don't know what we don't know. As a mom, if something's going on with my kids, I don't know what I don't know. So I really try my hardest to have that open communication with them, so they feel that they can come to me if there's something going on, because I can't fix what I don't know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The thing I was going to say is, and don't think that by talking to someone, you're going to be that extreme case. Often just
100%.
talking to someone that you trust, someone who knows what they're doing, either me, Crystal, or Mr. Assiamah, or a trusted adult, that might just be enough just to get it out and have someone say, you're going to be okay. Yeah, I feel
And
that
it
too.
might not be a mental health issue. It might not be, and you know what I mean? It could be an experience. It could be something that was just so minute. It could be an argument you had with a friend, or, whatever. It could be anything. And unpacking that is so important, because sometimes that's all you need, is you just need to say it. You just need to get it off your chest. You need to just put the words out there, and then it's like, all right, that's it. It's done. Right.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I want to double back to this whole stigma stuff. If we had physical, ailments, or physical, disabilities or whatever, we're going to do whatever we can to fix that. If I need a wheelchair, I'm going to figure out a way. If I need crutches, I'm going to figure out a way. If I have a broken arm, I'm going to go to the hospital. If I have a toothache or a headache, or, whatever the case may be, if I need glasses, if I need to get whatever, I'm going to deal with that. It should always be the same with your mental health. If you're feeling like there's something that's happening, something that's going on, it might not seem very significant, but I would always encourage you, talk to your parents, talk to your doctor, and it might be nothing, but have those conversations with people, and don't ever be embarrassed to ask for help.
I'm going to repeat, if you've been watching the morning show, Thursday I had a grade 11 student as the guest, and I asked before she left, I said, any advice you want to leave people with? And she was speaking to the students who are watching, and she reiterated, and she said it better than I think we could have, but she said, don't hold it in. Talk to someone. And so that's what it is. Don't hold it in, because if we're left to our own devices and we hold it in and we stew and analyze and overanalyze and analyze again, our thoughts, our self-talk isn't going to be the proper support that we need. We need someone who, again, that you trust, who knows what they're doing, to help us through the self-talk, so we don't slip into some unhealthy self-talk.
Yeah.
So that's plenty. We've given them a lot, but hopefully it helps. Yeah. And so have a good week, everyone. We'll see you next week. Crystal, you have a good weekend. Take care.
Thank you.
And stay Raider strong, everyone.